Hi, I'm Meg from Cook with Meg, and today I am going to teach you how to make one of the most basic but delicious things you could ever eat. Any guesses? It's soup. Now, we're doing a vegetable soup, but this is where you get so much creativity in the kitchen. You can literally customize this any way you want. So let's begin. Soup. Let's make some soup. All right. Oh, by the way, for more on me, you can find me at cookwithmeg.com. And if you've taken one of my classes or maybe in this series, you'll know that I always have my recipe right beside me. Very handy at all times. Now, you don't need to print yours. You could write everything down. You could have it on a tablet or a phone. But this is considered our roadmap in the kitchen, and it's really important to kind of go back to it, and you'll see me referencing it. It's right in the corner of my screen, and that is a-okay. I also always encourage families or people, if you have someone else in your house, cook as a team. We love teamwork. Now, a couple of housekeeping rules. Always make sure that you have clean hands in the kitchen. You'll see that I'm grabbing my cloth all the time. There's my damp cloth, and then here's my dishcloth. We always want to keep this nearby, especially for the next step. And that next step is prepping the veggies for the vegetable soup, because our hands may get a little bit wet and we are handling a knife. So as far as tools go, we'll get to the stock pot, the soup pot, the burner. We'll get to that after. But right now we're going to talk about what goes into the soup and how to get your veggies prepped. So the first thing you're going to see me do is put a bowl. I'm putting it right down in the sink. When you don't have a lot of cupboard space, if you can be doing some prep and then right down into your bowl, perfection. You're probably seeing an open can here with some beans. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But for the first step, we want to get some veggies prepped. And the most basic vegetables that we are going to use in today's soup will be celery, carrot, and onion. That's usually the really good first base to any soup. In Italian cooking, they call that the Holy Trinity. So that's what we're going to do. Mirepoix is also sometimes used to describe these vegetables that we kind of get all in little pieces, and that's what starts the flavor building of a soup. Because essentially that's what soup is. We are building flavor. Now, I'm in my home kitchen. You may see my dog Oliver making his way over because he loves vegetables. I'm also going to put all of the little scrap pieces of veggies also into the sink, but not into the bowl. So those are going to sit kind of off to the side. And we're going to talk in a minute here about this guy. So this is the inside of the celery. This is the heart of the celery. And we absolutely want to use those little leaves. They are delicate and tender and really sweet and really delicious. So absolutely, don't throw that part away when you're buying a bunch of celery. Use it, sweeten things, chop it up. You'll see how we're going to deal with it. All right, so I've washed my celery. Always a good idea when you break it off the bunch. Certainly the bottom area can get a little bit dirty. So we're just going to give it a little slice. I'm slicing right through the center. You may have already seen me do this in other videos. We're going right on through. And then I'm going to bundle it up, but if you would rather cut one piece at a time, you go for it. We're going to dry our hands. We're going to make sure we've got nice dry hands handling that knife. We need to be careful. And we're just going to tuck in our finger on the guide hand. This is your non-chopping hand. And we're going to just process and cut through all of this celery. All right, now that we've got our celery chopped, be really careful when you're moving things off your knife. I have this guy. This is, I call it, it is a bench scraper. And you're going to see bowl down in the sink. It looks like I'm putting them all in the sink, but they're going in a bowl. But there we have our celery, those little leaves and all. We want those in. They're fabulous. They look fantastic. They taste tender. Let's move my knife out of the way. And next up, carrot. So if you have a carrot peeler, we'll get you to go ahead and start peeling some carrots. peeled 2 carrots and we're going to chop those. Quite honestly, you can chop your carrots in many different ways. You can do little itty bitty pieces, but since this is a vegetable soup, I actually want them to be little coins. That's just personal preference. Down into my sink, not in the bowl. And we'll chop those up into little coins. I like to do 2 at a time, but I'll show you how to just do the one. Again, there's our hand that's not using the knife. We're gonna curl those fingers under. We're gonna chop the end off the carrot and the other end. And I wanna do little discs or little coins. So I'm just gonna chop, and I'm gonna show you here as we get bigger, obviously going down the length of the carrot, it's getting a little wider. But essentially, I just want little discs, little round discs, I think are yummy in a vegetable soup. If you would rather do little pieces, you could do little pieces. I want you to do whatever works for you. Sort of the beautiful thing about making a vegetable soup. You get, woo, carrots flying everywhere. You get to decide. Second carrot. Cut off those ends. If you have frozen vegetables, they absolutely work in a vegetable soup. Again, we're using what we have. Little discs, tucking in those fingers, safety first. I nod my head when I'm chopping. There we go, beautiful. Careful when you're getting them off the knife. Use your bench scraper. Boop, down into the bowl. So now we have carrot and we have celery, and the last vegetable that we're going to use today is an onion. To cut an onion, onions are very, very rolly. The goal here is how do we cut the onion safely so that it can sit flat on the board, which makes it easier for us to slice and then dice. So the first thing that I do is I kind of grip it. You can see we're kind of gripping it. And I'm going to slice off one of the ends. And I'm really just gonna work at peeling it. So I'm gonna peel that. You can slice the second end off. Some people don't, and sometimes I leave it intact. But today I'm going to cut both ends off so you can see automatically we've given it that flat base so it can sit right on the cutting board. And using my hand on top of the knife, with a little pressure, we're just gonna slice through, opening it up to 2 pieces that can beautifully sit safely on the cutting board. So now we wanna get this one peeled. Sometimes the peels bite you a little bit. Sometimes they come right off. You might have to peel off that first little layer. Now, any onion will work for this recipe. Any onion. Soup is whatever you want. Soup is, you have a blank canvas. You can use yellow onion, white onion, red onion, green onion, frozen onion. You can use whatever you've got. And there's not really a trick when onions are strong and it makes you feel like you want to cry. There isn't really a trick. I always say, let's just get through it quickly but safely. That's usually my goal. But my hands got a little wet. So give them a little rinse, a little wipe rather, and a little dry. We do not want slippery hands when we are cutting. And we're just going to chop this into little pieces. Again, no one really wants to bite into a big, big chunk of onion. So just a nice little piece. If you're ever more comfortable, if you happen to be more comfortable putting your hand on top of the knife, please do. Absolutely. This is supposed to be fun. Cooking is fun, but cooking needs to be safe. And if you're not feeling safe, it's not going to be much fun. So really just take your time. Now I want to move these onions away on the cutting board. So instead of dragging the blade of the knife, because that would make it quite dull, I'm going to turn it upside down and I'm going to flip it that way. Neat little trick. Cut second half again. Super careful, tucking in those fingers. If you get a little piece at the end, the core of the onion, you can discard that. And I see in my other side, there's the little bit of a core. Sometimes that doesn't break down very well in a soup pot, so it's just a little easier to maybe get rid of that little piece. All right, so I have my onion. Now, oh, one more thing I want to show you. Let's say you pile up your onion and you're seeing that there are still pieces that look quite big. We can go back over it, pile them up, put your hand on top, and just sort of move your knife throughout. And that's a really interesting, easy, fun way. We call it the pivot. You're leaving the tip of your knife where it is, but you're able to further process or cut through bigger pieces of vegetable. And for onions, this is a good one. Garlic, all that stuff. I'm going to start crying, but trust me, I'm very happy today. All right, so knife out of the way. Scrape this all together. That's a strong onion. Down into my bowl, which I'm going to bring up here in just a sec. Finished with this and finished with this. Finished with my cutting board. Let's just place it right in here for now. I'm going to give my hands a wash. I will wash my knife after class. Move the vegetables back up, but I do want to give my hands a rinse before we dive right in and start putting together our gorgeous soup. So now I need to bring my burner. You will be making your way over to the stove. However, I will be bringing my burner towards us. So give me 1 sec. Okay, we are set. I have my induction burner. I'm gonna grab my soup pot with a lid. And the very first thing we are going to do is turn on our heat. So go ahead and get your heat turned on. We want a nice big pot that can hold our soup. And I'm going to add about 2 to 3 tablespoons of oil. Whatever oil you have, that works. Again, whether you've got olive oil, canola oil, vegetable oil, peanut, grapeseed, I could go on and on and on. That's what you're going to use. We're gonna go medium heat, and we're gonna get all those first 3 beautiful vegetables for our vegetable soup down on in. Come on, little onion. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to just use a spatula, maybe it's a wooden spoon. We're just gonna give this a really good mix and a really good toss in the olive oil. Ooh, that's looking good. I'm going to hold that up so you can see it. See that? We've got it nice and shiny. That's essentially what we're looking for here. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna bring my camera much closer so that you can get a better peek into the soup. You are likely going to hear my voice, not as much my face. I'm okay with that. So give me a sec. Let's switch the views so you can see our vegetable soup being built step by step. Okay, we have sizzling happening. We've got our celery, we've got our carrot, we have our onion. This would be the root vegetable. The next thing that we have to add is a little bit of tomato paste. Now my tomato paste happens to be in a tube that kind of looks like a toothpaste tube. We're gonna go ahead and add 2 tablespoons. Whether you are squeezing it in, whether you are getting it out of a can, go ahead and add a couple of tablespoons down into your vegetable mixture and give this a beautiful stir. We're gonna let that tomato, very concentrated tomato, all cook together. It already smells amazing, it looks amazing. Let's let that cook. Tomato, rich, deep in flavor, deep in color. It is tomato, would be a can of tomatoes that's had all of or most of that moisture all evaporated. And when that happens, it becomes very rich and very concentrated. and very, very, very delicious. So we've got our tomato paste in, and we're gonna let that cook. You're gonna hear it sizzling. You're gonna hear all that flavor coming together. But next up, we're gonna add a little bit of garlic. So I'm gonna grab my measuring spoon. Let's go ahead and add a little garlic powder. Again, this is the type of vegetable soup that is so easy to put together right from your pantry. So garlic powder, amazing. I put in about a half a teaspoon, but if you love garlic, go for it. You can put more than that in. Now, one reminder, when we do cook with garlic, you do need to keep the spoon moving in your pot. So really don't walk away from garlic. Whether you used garlic powder or fresh garlic, like a garlic clove that you minced up, you could mince it, you could put it through a garlic press. You can use granulated garlic. Just don't use garlic salt, or if you do, you don't want to use very much, and you want to be sure that when you do a garlic salt, you're not adding additional salt, and make sure that your chicken broth isn't extra salty. Oh, it smells unbelievable already. The next thing that I want to add, I'm going to show you the bottle. If you have any Worcestershire, let's go ahead and just add a little tiny bit. Now, if you're vegetarian, you probably won't do this because there are anchovies in it, but I promise you, if you didn't know that, you wouldn't know that, because it's not a fish sauce. It's a beautiful sauce. It kind of reminds me a little bit, I mean, I suppose if you didn't have Worcestershire, you could use soy sauce, but it's a really great way to get another additional little bit of extra flavor. So let's recap. What's in my pot right now? It's loud, it's sizzling, I love it. We have the heat on medium. I have oil, and that oil is softening and sauteing my onion, my celery, my carrot. I've put in 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, and I've put in about a half a teaspoon of garlic powder and a little bit of Worcestershire. If I tell you this soup is almost ready, would you believe me? I'm not joking. This is how easy it is to make vegetable soup. So these are softening. These are amazing. It smells amazing already. I'm gonna go in with one more exciting ingredient, and that today would be cannellini beans or white kidney beans. Now, the reason that I'm using a white kidney bean is because I want to get some fiber, I want to get some protein. I'm making this a vegetarian, like a vegetable soup, but it's a really great way. It was literally this. It was a can of white kidney beans. Great way to get lots of fiber and protein, vitamin A, vitamin C, some calcium. Delish. If you want to use leftover chicken, go for it. Put in some chicken. If you wanted to put in some leftover shredded pork or shredded beef, this soup can take on so many different forms. I'm making mine basically built out of my pantry and a couple items from my fridge. Carrot, celery, onion, garlic, olive oil, beans, tomato paste, Worcestershire. So far, I really haven't dipped too far into the fridge. I'm now going to add broth. Now this big thing holds 4 cups, and I want about 6 cups. And that's gonna make up the main liquid of my soup. So when you're ready, we're gonna add some broth. This happened to be chicken broth. We're gonna talk about broth. You're gonna see there's a little bit on the bottom of this that hasn't quite blended in. We're gonna talk about that and why that's A-okay. And I'm going to give this a stir, and then I'm gonna fix my camera so that I can come back up and talk to you guys. Okay, can we please look at this? We absolutely have made vegetable soup. It's not quite finished, but it looks spectacular. All right, I'll be right back. Hi friends. Okay, we are back. We have this gorgeous vegetable soup that is just almost ready to go in terms of not adding any more ingredients. But I wanted to talk about broth. I have this guy, which it's called Better Than Bouillon, and it happens to be like a paste. See that? It's like a paste that you mix with water. I want you to use whatever you have. I repeat, use what you have. You can use these, which are the little foil wrapped cubes. You can use foil cubes. You can use powder. You can use actual broth that comes in a packet. Please use what you have, but you need about 6 cups. Now, this is just a guideline for the soup. This soup can take many, many, many different forms. I'm leaving mine as a vegetable soup. I am gonna still add some frozen peas and frozen corn, but let's say that I had a leftover chicken. Maybe in the fridge I had some pieces of chicken. You could chop that up and add your chicken. You could add pork or beef. You could add tofu. A lot of people love a soup that has a pasta or a noodle or a rice. My only caution to you is, first of all, amazing, do it, it's fantastic. But don't add your uncooked pasta to the soup pot. We always want to cook our rice and our pasta separately, and then at the end, add it in. The reason for that, we all know that pasta is like a sponge, and it literally absorbs all the water and grows and grows and grows. And so if you were to put your uncooked elbow macaroni or pasta or rice down into this beautiful pot with 6 cups of liquid, trust me when I tell you, your 6 cups of liquid would probably it would disappear. So we want to cook the noodle, cook the pasta, and then add it. What else could we be adding into this soup pot? We could add peas and corn. I have some right now. I literally, ice chunk and all, have peas and corn right from the freezer. You can wait and add that in the last few minutes, or if you would prefer to add it in right away, go ahead. Peas and corn are great. Frozen vegetables, maybe you've got a package of frozen veggies, great way to make a delicious, healthy soup. Maybe you want to do potatoes, so you're not going to do a pasta or a noodle, but you want some potatoes. I did beans. I'm getting sort of the starchiness and the carbohydrate from the beans, but maybe you want to add potatoes. You will peel and cube up some potatoes and put those in. Now, potatoes don't need a really big, long amount of time, so that would be the one thing that I might put in toward the end if you were waiting. You could wait and put your potatoes, your peas, and your corn in toward the end. Now, obviously, this hasn't come to a boil. This is going to need at least a good half an hour to bubble away and become delicious, but I haven't even tasted it, and I want to get the first taste. I want to see, where do we sit? Does it need salt? Does it need seasonings? Here we go. Oh. Okay, that's delicious. I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of pepper. I don't think it needs any salt, but I guess I am gonna do one more thing. I'm gonna add a little more tomato paste. I have it right beside me. I wanna show you this because it's proof that you can add tomato paste and different flavors all the way through the cook process. And I have just the very tail end of a little tube here, so I might as well go ahead and add a little extra. Perfect. If you are feeling as though your soup needs extra flavor, let's talk about what we could add to it. Maybe it needs a little more broth. Maybe it needs another shake of Worcestershire. Maybe it does need some salt, some pepper. If you're a family that enjoys hot sauce, maybe a little dash of hot sauce. But ultimately, the number one thing when it comes to soup is that we let it do its thing. What does that mean? We need to let this beautiful pot of delicious soup cook. And by cook, I mean we're gonna grab a lid and we're gonna put the top onto the pot. We're gonna leave that heat around medium. So right now it's at about a 5 out of 10. And we're gonna watch that soup. I know they say never, a watched pot never boils. We're gonna keep our eye on it because we do wanna bring this up to a boil. And then we're gonna lower it down to a simmer. So in the world of cooking, a simmer is just one below a boil. And ultimately that's what we wanna do, is let this simmer and cook and cook and cook for honestly as long as we can let it go. Now, that doesn't mean all day, because what will happen over time is that it will start to reduce. And I literally mean that. You'll see the water level reduce down, but you'll also get less liquid, and the goal of soup is to have the liquid. So we don't want to reduce it too much, but we do need to give it a good 30 to 45 minutes really to come together, because all of the flavors of a bowl of homemade soup happen when it has a chance to just cook and bubble away and simmer. The other thing you could add to this would be coleslaw mix. And for those who like coleslaw mix, you'll know that in the package, it's a lot of shredded cabbage. It's purple cabbage, green cabbage, and usually a little bit of carrot. And that makes a wonderful shortcut. So if you had a bag of coleslaw mix and you wanted to bulk this up and have it even more packed with veggies, cabbage is a beautiful thing to add. You could also buy cabbage, like actual head of cabbage, and thinly slice it and get that in. Also delicious. What else could we put in our soup? Some people put a little dash of vinegar just to give it a little bit of tanginess. I just prefer a little bit of thyme, as in T-I-M-E. Although T-H-Y-M-E, the herb, would also be delicious. Let's wash my spoon. Let's give that one more taste before we officially put the lid on, turn that down, and let it bubble away until it's ready for soup time. The corn made its way onto my spoon. Oh, soup is a hug. Soup is hug in a pot. There it is. We have made the easiest, the most basic pot of soup. Let's recap. We used some oil and we softened some of the harder vegetables, the carrot, the onion, the celery. Then to that we added flavor, depth of flavor with that tomato paste. It made it all jammy and it really started to develop and concentrate the flavors. Then to that we added some garlic. So now we're getting into the herbs and the aromatics, the onion, the garlic, the tomato paste. It's all coming together. Then to that, we added broth. I use chicken broth. Maybe you're using beef broth. Maybe you're going to use a vegetable broth or stock. Frozen peas, frozen corn. Any and all additions are welcome. Mushrooms, green beans, frozen broccoli, chicken, pork, beef. Take it in every direction that you can. So that's it. There is our pot of vegetable soup. I hope you enjoy it. As far as cooking, give it at least 30 to 45 minutes to cook until it tastes amazing. Adjust seasoning often. Check for pepper, check for salt. Does it need anything? Have other people in your house taste it. Let them get a sense of what they love and what works for them. And then when it's ready to serve, you're gonna take it off the heat, ladle it into bowls. Served on its own is amazing. Served with a sandwich is great. This could be a beautiful lunch or a snack or a supper or a dinner. And the leftovers keep in the fridge for definitely a week, but it freezes beautifully. I feel like I say that every time, but it's true. It really does freeze really, really well. So that's gonna wrap it up for me. I hope you have a wonderful cook, and I hope that making a basic homemade soup will take your cooking to the next level. Until next time, I will see you in the kitchen, and remember, at the end of every day and every cook, clean your kitchens, and we are awesome. Bye, everyone.